Hello. I'm going to be having a wee run inside this old Morris. It's a Morris Minor with the 1000cc engine, or approximately a 1000cc engine in it. It's the Series 3, 1957 I think the bodywork is, but the mechanical parts that are in it are from the Series 4, should be 1963 onwards. So it's the old bodywork but with the later revised mechanical parts. So I was just trying to remember what my mate was saying. It's my mate's car and I'm going to go for a wee run round in it. I'll get some video footage of it as well. So I've stopped here at this spot and I'm going to go into the back and I'll get footage inside. I'll get footage of the engine and I'll go around the car with the camera later on. So yeah, it's 1963 Morris Minor. Oh, and it was registered in the Aberdeenshire area where it has pretty much lived all its life. It's never sort of left this Aberdeenshire area. So it's been its home for decades. So yeah, I stood corrected there. It was Series 5 mechanical parts. It's the Series 3 bodywork and the Series 5 mechanical parts. My mate will give you a much better explanation, but because he knows the car, he's advised it quite well. So I mean, I remember that type of car from my way back. My dad had a Morris 1000 Traveller, and that was in the late, well, he had it before I was born, but I remember it in the late 70s. It was a G-Reg, it was a 1968 model, and then we got rid of that and got the Austin Allegro, 1500cc, the OSV engine. So yeah, I remember them about. But so what I'll do is I'll get around here, get some footage of that, and then my mate will give you a good definitive explanation about, go right into all the detail of that. I'll get footage of it driving as well. So I'll turn it around and I'll show you the footage. So it's a Morris Minor 1000cc. And this will be the petrol filler port. You see it's got the old black and white number plate, proper numbers as well, all the chrome and everything, small wing mirrors. So I'm going to get myself inside the back of this Morris Minor. It's a lot easier to get in them than some of the modern cars. Although it's a 3-door, the passenger seat actually folds down and then folds over. So it gives you a whole big area to, I know exactly that small, but I could get in that easier than my mate's car. And this is a 3-door. So I'm going to go inside, I'm going to sit in the back and I'm going to get a view of the dashboard and also capture the sound of the engine and everything as well. So that's me in the back, and we're going away to go for a wee drive. So it's got the synchro mesh on gears 2, 3 and 4. It's a 4-speed gearbox, but it doesn't have a synchro mesh on the first gear. inside this car. That must be about average height, about 6 foot, and I've got all this headroom, so it's quite a tall car in the back here. And it's got the headliners as well fitted. This one being a Dulux model also has the heater as an optional extra. It's very comfortable back here, and you can smell the original sort of old car smell, the leather and the petrol. There's no catalytic converters or anything on this, it's just carburetor. Doesn't have anything like the emission controls that a modern car does, so you get all the original raw smells, the oil, the petrol, the exhaust fumes. Got the central steering wheel, central speedometer as well. Well, we've stopped here. My friend's going to, I'm going to pass you over to my friend, and he's going to say a bit about his car.
Was the a run in the 1963 Morris Minor 1000 Deluxe. Deluxe because it gets overriders on the front bumpers, which Chris will show you later on in the video. You paid £20 extra for your Deluxe Morris Minor. For that you got the overriders, and you also got the option of buying a heater on top of your £20. If you did buy the heater, then the control to switch the heating on and off is actually under the bonnet, so you have to decide before you leave whether or not you want the heating on or off. Otherwise you have to stop mid-route, open the bonnet and turn the heating off. So this is a Series 3, Series 5 crossover model. The Morris Minor went through various incarnations over the years. So the Series 3 was introduced in 1956. That was the first time it was called the Morris Minor 1000. Prior to that, it had a side valve engine, and then it had an 800cc overhead. But from 1956, you got the 950cc engine. That was also the first time the split windscreen disappeared, but you can see that even on this car, Morris still left the windscreen wipers as point together from the old split screen. It wasn't until 1963 that they decided to change it again, but they made the changes in two phases. So at the start of 1963, you got a change to the mechanicals. So this car has the 1098cc overhead A-series engine, the same as the Morris 1100 cars, which had only just been introduced at that time. It has the new gearbox, which has a smooth casing on it, but the styling is still of the 1956 car. That didn't change until the end of 1963. So you have the point together windscreen wipers, you have the banjo steering wheel, and you have various other little features around the car which only came until the end of 1963. So it was changed to a two-spoke steering wheel at the end of 63. The speedometer turned black at the end of 63, and you see this car's had a replacement fuel gauge which has the black instrument on it, and also the front indicators were changed to a combined unit at the end of 63, and this car's had that update as well, with it has revised front and rear indicators on it. The car did have seatbelt mounts from new. They were fitted, and someone has added seatbelts for safety since then. It has little tiny sun visors like this, handy if the sun is directly in front of you, but not much good if it's anywhere else. You get 4 switches. One is for the choke, one is for the starter, one is for the lights, and one is for the windscreen wipers. This being a deluxe, you also get a manual push button screen washer there, which squirts onto the screen
Could
like
you
that.
show that one again?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Ah, yeah. So it's just done.
So it's just a vacuum.
A vacuum. Yeah, yeah.
That's right. And it just presses down here. That was only available on the deluxe cars as well. From the change which came at the end of 63, the cars went to key start as well. So the separate switch for the starter motor was discontinued at that point. This is a 2-door car. You also got 4-door cars. You've got an estate version with wood panelling down the side, which was called the Morris Traveller. You also got a van. You got a pickup. You got a convertible car as well. The convertible, incidentally, was the same price as the 2-door saloon, and yet it wasn't so popular, but are a lot more valuable today. So I haven't had this car very long, but it has been a local car for all of its life. It was sold by Patrick Shinney's dealership in Aberdeen in 1963 and has never really strayed very far away from the north of Scotland in all the years since. I hope you enjoyed the run round of that little story about the car.
That was well good. Thanks, Steve. There you go. Nice bit of rundown on this car, this Morris Minor 1000. Like I said, there was an estate version. That's what my dad had. He had a G-Reg, a dark blue Morris 1000 Traveller that had the wooden doors. It was purple inside, but it would have been the same type of engine as what's in this one. But as you say, he got rid of that in 1980, so I was only 5. But I remember it from up to that. Then he got the Austin Allegro, which is a totally different car altogether. But it was kind of like it was Austin, Morris, Rover Group and all that. But, I remember that one well. So we're going to continue in a bit. But yeah, I'll get some more pictures of the outside just further down the road. So I'm going to get video footage of the engine, and I'll get a view of the interior again, also the boot. So I'll start off with an under bonnet view of the Morris Minor 1000. Ah, I see,
so
yeah.
It's a handle as well as a styling thing.
Clever, yeah. So this is the engine here. It sits longitudinal, which means it's rear wheel drive. It's an overhead valve engine. What's the cc?
1098.
1098 cc engine. So it's actually just under a 1.1, but it's still classed as a 1 litre, 1000 cc. It is technically near enough. You could call it a 1 litre, but 1000 cc is what it's called. And sure, this will be a dynamo.
Yes,
I think that's a dynamo, so it's DC. It's not like the modern cars that have alternators. This is the old school dynamo, and it's got an actual fan belt that turns the metal fan. It's not got all the electronics like in modern cars. It's all old school stuff. I think it's kingpin steering, and it has torsion bar suspension that runs along the sides of the car. It's like that of the one I showed in my video at the Grampian Transport Museum. There's a Morris Minor up on the ramps and you've been able to see under it. So that'll be your induction, air and filter. This will be the wiper motor, fuel filter I think, battery, fuel pump, that's a fuel pump. And the heater box, that was an optional extra.
Heater control is this here.
Oh yeah, that's your, this here is your tap for your water for the heater. So to turn the heater on, you alter this. If you want to turn it on and off, you just turn that water tap and that will regulate the water going into the heater box inside. It's a non-cross flow engine. It means the air comes in through the air filter on this side, it gets burnt obviously, does all the compression, and it comes out the exhaust on the same side. So it's a non-cross flow engine. Small radiator in front. Pressure cap, there's no expansion tap, so any overflow just goes right up onto the road. It's old school style, so if the engine overheating, you've got to check your fluids, because there isn't a catchment like the modern cars have an expansion tank. This just goes straight out onto the road. Ignition coil, screen wash which works off a vacuum. The main beams, again, it's like a pedal. You press the main beam, you get a pedal, get the main beam on, and similar for it's vacuum for the screen wash. So view that for you. Oh, right way around. This. That's just for lifting the engine up. Transmission is underneath the car.
Those hooks are from when the factory put the engine in.
Oh, is that what they are?
Yeah.
Ah, right. So I was just saying the hooks are in.
Hooks.
Yeah, the hoist hooks. Oh, right.
This car's had an engine change in its life.
Has it?
So it has now got a low compression engine of the same capacity as the original. The
right.
low compression engines mostly came out of the vans. But there are some saloons which were specified with low compression engines.
Yeah.
But this one has a low compression unit fitted to it. It doesn't make a huge difference to the engine power output, even with a car of this size.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. So this would be the distributor. It's been an overhead cam engine. Sorry, the overhead valve engine. The camshaft's at the bottom half of the engine, and there's a distributor drive from the camshaft down there. Let's start the motor, which is on the clutch bell housing on that side. Yeah. Again, that'll be the kingpin steering. I think that. No, I'd have to show a diagram how it works, but it's like a big post in the front bit. It sort of swivels. It's like a swivel hub on the front, but I believe it's called kingpin steering. So there's lots of room under here. You can actually see what's going on, and I think that's the horn. That's the bonnet release, so you could actually see just about everything. There's no plastics or anything under here. That's your engine mounts.
It's even easier to work on as well because these wings both unbolt and lift off. The front panel unbolts and lifts off. You can see it's just bolted here, and then you have full access to the mechanical parts of the car as well.
Yeah,
it's a very easy car to work on.
Yep, it'll be well serviced and well looked after.
So these are the overriders. These are the parts that you got for your extra £20 by buying the deluxe car.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, all that means is if you run into something, you bump a different part of the chrome work rather than the bumper itself. But the bumper's spring mounted, you can see that, so it does actually absorb a little bit of impact if you want
suspension,
it to.
It's like the leaf spring.
And these are the revised indicators. So these are a later fitment. These came in at the end of 1963. Prior to that, I would have had two lights here, one for the flasher, one for the side lights, and these combined units have been retrofitted at some point in the car's life, as have the halogen headlights.
Halogen lights, right, I see. Yeah, it's like the Austin Leg, that was a sealed unit. shield lights on them, I remember. That's halogen lights. Oh,
Cross plies were new.
so these are radial tyres then?
These are radial tyres, yes, radial tyres.
Right, not cross ply then. Let's see. You see the silencer as well. Must be a single silencer probably in this. That'll probably be a single silencer.
You'd probably be able to, if you want to, be able to lie on the drive.
Yeah, I could duck under. Yeah.
Side and
He's got a couple other things, a couple of interesting facts about this car he's going to show us.
so the two little things that maybe some people don't realise about miners is this, which looks like a styling piece here with a Morris M badge in the middle, is actually a handle for lifting the bonnet up and down. The other is on the badge itself for Morris, that not many people have spotted, is the emblem above it. Is of what looks like a cow and a river. Well, of course, Morris had their factory in Oxford, so this is actually an ox crossing a river on a ford, so it's an ox ford. So that's where the Morris badge origin came from. And Chris will give you a quick close-up on my Morris 1800 in a moment.
Oh yeah.
Which has the badge more clearly marked out with the ox and the ford coloured in.
Yeah, so that was interesting. He's also going to point out on this on his Morris Oxford 1800.
No,
Oh,
he hasn't got that at all. He has a Morris 1800.
oh, Morris 1800 is
Chris doesn't know what he's talking about.
it's before my time. But yeah, I'll show you what he's going to point out with the badge on this Morris 1800.
So I was just saying on the Miner that the Morris badge was an ox over a river crossing or a ford, because they were made in Oxford, the city. And on the Morris 1800 I've got here, it's a lot more obvious because it's coloured in compared to the Miner. And there you can see the ox, and there you can see the ford underneath.
Ah, yeah. That's something I never realised. Learned something else. Hope you've learned something as well, eh? So that's a nicer badge on that one, like, and it's got the colour on it. They're both good, but so it's Morris 1800, also known as the Land Crab, and it's all the way down to this small one, which is about half the engine size, about half the size. It's a Morris Miner. So yeah, it likes the Morrises. So this is another thing that might be surprising for a lot of you, is the, well...
So the Miner was introduced in 1948 and had a split windscreen until 1956. But for the first 3 years of its life, one of the optional extras was the passenger side windscreen wiper. So if you wanted two wipers on your first Morris Miner, you had to pay extra for that one. Otherwise, with the earliest split window ones, you only got the driver's side windscreen wiper on it.
So maybe you take a lot for granted on the new cars. So moving over to the back of the Morris Miner, I'm going to open up the boot and I'll show you footage in there. Just no central locking or anything on this. It's just old school. So has it got a spare wheel as well then?
Yes, it does. But it's not in the car at the moment. So Morris designed it so that you could put your tools and the spare wheel in this compartment down here, and then you could put your luggage up in the top compartment up here, and then the fuel tank lives underneath the floor there.
Oh yeah, there's a fuel filler that just goes down under the underside of the car. Yep.
But also what you can do is the rear seat can come out, and you've already seen how the seat on the passenger side can fold forward. So it's like a modern car. You can actually put a piece of luggage in, which is the full length of the inside of the car, starting here and going right up to the dashboard by folding seats and taking the back of the rear seats out. So it was really ahead of its time for doing that.
Yeah. So it's got all the folding seats, as I say. You can get quite a bit in here if you just fold all this down and take the back seat out. This is a 1957 car, so certainly put in a lot of thought for luggage and versatility and that, versatile. That's the bumper overrides that we were talking about earlier, so that there just kind of protects the main bumper, like, you know, so it's just a sort of extra bumper, like, you know. Then you got it's a real steel bumper, unlike modern cars that are all plastic moulding, where you bump on the car and you want to spend a fortune replacing them, and cars off the road for ages doing a big job, whereas on this it's good old steel, well, stainless steel, and that'll take a bump. And the modern ones are designed to, well, cars lucrative, cost money to repair, but the old ones are built for motoring. Proper old school car. So just something else to point out with this, the boot lid has actually got like a boot stay similar to that of the bonnet, because the modern cars have the gas struts on each side if it's a hatchback, or if it's a saloon car it'll have like a hinge, it'll have a locking mechanism to stop it from falling down, but this is just a good old fashioned lock strut, and it's just like that at the bonnet, and that's reliable, that's not going to wear out or fall down on you in the wind. Yeah, so that's the boot. I'm going to get down on my hands and knees now to get a look underneath the car. I'll get the camera pointed under there and I'll see if we can get some mechanical footage of the underside of the Morris Minor 1000. So it's not really that easy to see under here because of the lighting, and it's very uncomfortable, but it's a single silencer, you can see that. Torsion bars are running, will be on the inside of the chassis leg, it's not being very clear on here. It's got a live back axle. On the underside of the rear overhang. Oh. So you can see the fuel tank just at the right at the back. It's got leaf spring suspension on the rear axle. That big bit in the centre of the rear axle, that's the differential gearbox. The prop shaft runs all the way from the transmission, and you've got the shock absorbers, which are just on the edge. It's a very uncomfortable position to in, but I'm trying my best to get as much as I can for you. My mate was, Steve who owns the car, my mate, he was wondering what the conditions like under here, because they're letting down looking under it, and it's looking quite solid for the age of car and where it's been living, which is up in the north of Scotland, in the Aberdeen area. You get a lot of bad winters, and it's sort of bearing out quite well considering. So this is under the driver's side. That's the cross beams. It's quite solid. I don't see any rust or anything. I think it's been undercoated actually, this car. It's not very clear there. I think that'll be the jacking points. I think that's the jacking point. So we'll get a view underneath the front as well. Oh, get my hands and knees. So that'll be the sump, the engine sump. That's where the oil pan, engine sump, whatever you choose to call it. But that's where the vital oil is to stop the engine from seizing up. Unlike the Morris Minor, the Morris 1000. Sorry, the transmission on the Morris Minor, on this one, it's like the conventional transmission, whereas on the Morris 1800 and the Allegro, Austin Allegro, the Austin Maxi, and the Mini as well, the engine sits transversely, and the gearbox is in the sump. So the gearbox is in the bottom half of the engine, and that shares the same engine oil. It shares the same oil as the engine. So it's called gearbox and sump, or transmission and sump. It's also a transaxle because it's a front wheel drive, and the differential is integrated in with the transmission. What one likes this, it's the conventional setup, and the transmission or gearbox has its own separate transmission fluid, and so does the live back axle. That'll have its own fluid as well. But on the Morris 1800, the Allegros, Minis and Maxis, the oil that goes into the top of the engine, that oil is lubricating the engine, the transmission and the differential, all in one unit. And most cars have three separate, if it's variable, it's three separate units. It's got engine oil, transmission oil and rear axle diff oil, if it's a rear wheel drive or live axle. All in one on that type. And my mate was saying there, a joke, that if there's no oil underneath, if there's no oil dripping out underneath the old cars like that, it means there's no oil in it. So, but you would check your oil regularly. Like that, you would check your coolant regularly as well. The modern cars have got a sealed unit. That's not a sealed cooling unit. So maybe one day I'll get a shot. No, but I'm just short of time in that. God. I just have to keep on pestering them to get a shot. Bribe us. But yeah, no, we've got to, for insurance and stuff like that, we've got to organise that properly, like, but sure I'll twist his arm here, so. But anyway, I'll do a separate video sometime on the Morris 1800, also known as the Land Crab. It looks very much like the Maxi, the Austin Maxi, but it's just how I remember them. I mean, that's going back to 1969. Oh, yeah. That's a big car. Yeah, 1800. That's the overhead valve. It's overhead cam engine. It's in that one. So I'll get some more pictures of the interior. I haven't been inside yet, so I'm going to get a close-up of the inside of this car as well, and the driver pedals and steering wheel and that. No, I stand corrected. It was actually an overhead valve engine that's in that car. It's the B series. The way it's going to stand is corrected and give you a proper bit about that car if you want. But the Land Crab, I'd probably have to do that on a separate video, like. But you'll see a bit about it just now, like. I thought it was a C engine like that of the Austin E series engine, but it's a B series engine. Ah, right. Put that in there. That's fine.
So Chris has said that this is an E-Series engine. These old Land Crabs were actually introduced in 1964, before the E-Series engine was designed, and they used the old B-Series engine that had been introduced in the early 1950s. So this is an 1800 four-cylinder overhead valve. It was only in the early 70s that they moved to increase this engine even further, and they offered this as a 2200cc transverse, still fitted across the width of the car, but you had to put the radiator around the front. That was the first use of the E-Series in this car. So the 1800s have the B-Series, the 2200, which has the same design as the E-Series engine, and the Maxi engine was, or the Maxi compared to this, was at the hatchback version of this. So this is a saloon car, and the E-Series in the Maxi was in essence the 6-cylinder 2200 chopped down with 2 fewer cylinders, so it was just a 4-cylinder E-Series.
Get a closer view of that. So this is a closer up. I couldn't get the footage of the engine on camera there, but I'll get it in now. So this, as I said, it's the 1800 Morris 1800, but it's an overhead valve engine, B series, whereas I assumed it was like that of the Maxi, but it's got the same driveline layout. And right enough from what I said, that the engine sits here, and underneath the engine is the transmission. So it's got the transmission in sump, and it's a transversely mounted engine, and the clutch bell housing is there on that side. Because of the layout, it's like that of the Mini, the radiator is on the near side, and it's belt driven as well, and I think that's probably an auto, and it's got power steering.
The dynamo.
Dynamo, yeah,
Dynamo with a power takeoff for the power steering.
Oh yeah, that's the power takeoff there. The Allegro, however, was same layout, and so was the Maxi. It was an overhead cam engine E-series, and it was in the same driveline layout. The Maxi still had its radiator on the near side, and the transmission in sump underneath. So the engine oil here is shared by the transmission and the differential, and obviously the engine, so that does everything on this, and then also on the OHC engine. But on the Allegro, the radiator is in the conventional position. On the Austin Allegro had an electric cooling fan, just like that of the modern cars nowadays, so it sat in the conventional front position, whereas the Mini and the Maxi and the Morris has it in this position here. I think this is the vacuum, the servo assist brakes, servo unit, yeah, air filter, Venturi, is it, what's that called again? SU carburetor.
Yes.
SU
Just like the very earliest Maxis, this car has a cable gear linkage as well, and you can just see the cables. If Chris puts his camera down through the hole, you can just see the cables.
Oh, I
could
see them
at the bottom there. But unlike the Maxi, the cables were quite short on these, so they were actually perfectly fine, and people were quite comfortable with them. But they were extremely unpopular when they were introduced on the Maxi, which came out in 1969, because the cables were apparently longer and gave a very loose gear shift on those.
Yeah, big.
So they were very quickly changed on the Maxi over to rod change.
Yeah. No, I'm not quite sure what that is.
It's the battery tray.
Oh, the battery's out. That's what it is. Should have known about the battery lead. Yeah, that's the negative earth. That's the positive, which is actually black, but the negative earth, because it's a metal bodywork, and it's usually red for positive, but it's black on there. But that'll be the expansion. So this has got a sealed unit, a sealed radiator cooling unit. Yeah, it's expansion tank, so it'll go back in there. You still check your coolant anyway. That's like your regulator, your voltage regulator, and fuse boxes and stuff. So I won't spend too long on this car, because I'll do a separate video about the Morris 1800, but this is just a very brief look. Then I'll get back to the interior of the Morris Minor. I get a view inside this car. I'll just take out the bits and pieces, and I'll get a good clear view inside of the car. That there is for the main beam, so it's a pedal operated main beam, and that's your I think that's screen wash. The indicator light is on the stock, and it's got quarter light windows as well as a conventional handle for rolling down the windows. Also, this is an optional extra. The wing mirror. As standard, you only had a rear view mirror. That was it. All you had was a rear view mirror, and that was it. But if you wanted the wing mirror, you had to put that on as an optional extra. And it's your the mister things here as well. That's the heater regulator. Well, for the fan speed. That's the choke, I believe. Manual choke.
Heater.
Oh, that's heater there, isn't it?
Heater blower.
Heater blower, and that's the choke, yeah?
No, heater.
Oh, is that the heater as well? Oh, right. Right.
Quantity.
Well,
Chokes on the dash.
oh, right. Yeah, I'm guessing. Choke.
Starter.
Starter motor.
Lights.
Lights.
Wipers.
And wipers. So it's choke, starter, lights, and wipers. And it's metal dashboard, and that's all you've got. No big hi-fis or air conditioning or airbags or cruise control or anything in here. And it's Bakelite steering wheel as well. Just good old-fashioned motoring. How it should be. Get you from A to B, reliably and durable. Modern cars have got so much in them, they just, if they break, they cost an absolute fortune for repairing. Whereas on something like this, it's, you know, you're able to see what you're working on. You can see where everything is. You don't have to take half the car apart just to get to a bit behind the dash, you know. As I said earlier, the seat belts were fitted a wee bit later on in its life. Original mats, carpet. And as I said, that's your door handle, your normal, that's your no door pockets or anything. This is the Dulux model, that's your interior light, and that's off just now.
Door lock.
Oh yeah, door lock as well, yep, that's your snib and door lock.
Very sophisticated.
Yeah. The headlining and metal trim. Yeah, so I could smell the leather and petrol and everything. As I said earlier, the headroom is really good. You know, for an old car, I mean, I could fit in it. I mean, it's narrower. It is narrower than your modern cars, like. But this particular car's got a lot of headroom in it. It's just the design of them. But it's considerably narrower. So. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. I think I'll round it off at the moment. Steve, he's got the Morris 1800. At some point, well, not on the daylight, but it'll be on another occasion. He's busy. He's got just limited for time and that. So another time we could get it organised. I could get a video made of the Morris 1800. But yeah. I'll keep twisting these arms to get a shot of this sometime. Nah, it's just for insurance and all that. They've got to do it right. We'll organise it properly and I'll get it running it. Get an actual drive it like, yeah. It was low on petrol as well, so. But just watching the way it was being driven, it was like proper old school, you know, steering and big steering wheel. There wasn't no power steering on this big long gear shift. Throw, you got to pull the gear lever. Well, you know, it's a big long throw. On the modern cars, it's a short gear lever, so you get a very precise gear shift. Whereas on the old one, it's got a big long gear stick. It's like driving a manual bus or something. But there is synchronised gears on second, third, and fourth. It's only a 4-speed forward box, one reverse. First gear isn't synchronised, so you've got to be practically stopped before it will engage in first gear. Modern cars, well, actually most of the modern cars are, I think, the same. You've got 5 and 6 speed boxes. Well, the one I've got, the Octavia, that's a 6-speed, and that's synchronised on first and it's synchronised on reverse. But I think my earlier cars for the 90s that I had, I think they were the same. The first gear wasn't synchronised, but I was still able to get it in first. But it's just been a refinement of gearboxes. But I think with the old gearbox on this, you would never get it in first if the car was moving. You know, you'd have to double clutch, and you don't need to do that. You just brake to a stop. It actually pulls away in second. It's got the bottom end torque. It's got enough bottom end torque to pull away in second. You know, if you're nearly stopped in that. But yeah, it's hope you liked that. See, like to get that Morris 1800 done at some point. It's yeah, big car. So yeah, Smith's heater. That's the heater type that's in there. In this one, yeah, very basic. Yep. Right. So, see what else I put up. I hope you enjoyed that, and thanks for watching. Okay, bye for now.